In a distant village, within the heart of a tiny village nestled in the vast expanse of Western Africa, there resided a king named Achena, who was the younger brother of Obinna, yet he was crowned as the king of the village. On the day of Obinna's coronation, the whole villagers gathered themselves to witness the passing of the crown to the king's heir. But fate had other plans. Obinna fell gravely ill. His body, weakened by an invisible hand, threatened to snatch away his life. The villagers' joy turned to sorrow, for their chosen king could not ascend the throne. The coronation rituals of Amero forbade a sick king on his coronation day. It was an ill omen, a sign that he might fail to protect his people. And so, the mantle of leadership shifted unexpectedly to Achena, making him the youngest king to rule over the village. Obinna lied feverish in his sickbed, hearing the most dreadful news. His younger brother, who had come to this world after him, now stood above him. Obinna tried convincing his people it was just a mild sickness. Perhaps Achena himself had purposely caused the sickness to occur. Now his crown had skipped to Achena, causing him to spite his brother even more. Obinna vowed revenge. His hatred for Achena festered like a deadly viper. As Obinna regained his strength, he challenged the legitimacy of Achena's rule. But Amero's tradition held firm. The coronation occurred only once. Since he defies the royal lineage, Achena rightfully rules us, the villagers said to each other. Their words echoed through the thatched huts, leaving Obinna seethed with suppressed fury, hearing the villagers' gossips. Despite being the younger brother, Achena governed with wisdom. His decisions were fair, and the villagers admired him. King Achena had married Adogo, the most beautiful fruit seller in the village. Adogo was the best fruit seller in Amero. Her fruits were nothing compared to her competitors. Her wares were a feast for the senses. Each fruit had a vibrant promise of sweetness. The villagers understood why their young king had chosen her, even though he hailed from nobility. Unlike Obinna, who remained aloof, Achena had played with the village children while he was little. The little prince's laughter echoed through the mango groves along with the other children. But Uchena's wife, Queen Adogo, bore no child for the king. Few villagers gossiped about Queen Adogo, stating she had traded her unborn offspring for her beautiful looks and prosperity in her fruit stall. Maybe that's why her womb remained empty. The villagers kept speculating, their tongues wagging in the market square. The queen mother, Achena's mother, urged him to take in another wife. Perhaps a new union would yield the desired heir. But Uchena clung to Adogo, steadfast in his love. He vowed to stand by her side, even if it meant defying tradition and risking the future of Amero. Rumors kept spreading like wildfire about the queen unable to bear a child. Obinna was very pleased with the queen's inability to conceive for his brother. It would be an advantage for him to kill his younger brother, with no heir to take over their father's throne other than him. He secretly sought the hand of the popular fisherman's daughter in marriage. But the fisherman hesitated. He knew wickedness danced in Obinna's veins. At first, the fisherman nearly disagreed with the prince's hand in marriage with his daughter. Yet, poverty clung to their home. Fishes have been scarce in the water these days, and the fisherman had no choice but to accept the stupid prince's proposal. And within 2 months of marriage, Chioma, the fisherman's daughter, gave birth to a set of twin girls. Obinna was so angry with Chioma for birthing female children. His plans to challenge his brother were in vain. What a wasted effort, he retorted, despising his daughters for not being a male child. The gossips and rumors of the villagers about their dearest queen not able to conceive reached her, making the queen have sleepless nights, walking around the palace absent-mindedly. She decided to advise her husband, the king, to get married to a second wife since she was unable to give birth. But Uchena disagreed with her, stating it's fine. He doesn't care what people say. The gods will surely bless them with a child when the time is right. My king, you know if you don't get a new wife, the whole villagers might think otherwise, and I see my mates putting to bed after 2 years of our marriage. It's bad to compare other people's lives as yourself. Just like I have said, the gods will bless us with a child, the king retorted. As soon as Achena finished his words, the feeling burst into Adogo's tears. King Achena was about pleading for his wife to stop crying, but their conversation was interrupted by his brother. Why does our queen weep? Obinna demanded, cutting through their conversation. Adagos implored Obinna to plead with her to convince his brother to take in a second wife. She is tired of being the gossip object of the villagers. That's a good thing to do, my brother, Obinna continued. I think I can help in finding a befitting wife, he retorted, beaming a cruel smile. The queen's sobs persisted. Out of embarrassment, Achena silenced her drama with a promise. If that's what will make you happy, no problem, I will do as my queen said. Obinna's cruel smile sliced through the tension. Queen Adago exhaled, thanking Obinna for such a good impact, retreating back to her chamber, leaving the two brothers alone. Achena, my brother, I need your help, Obinna said, moving closer to his brother. I have been wondering, your second plot of land, father had entrusted you with? I came to seek your permission to sell it off to pay my debt. Since you're a king now, you will be too busy to watch over it. What? There's no way I'm letting you to sell my own portion of father's property any longer. Father gave you 4 plots of lands as my elder brother. You didn't discuss how you... Enough, Obinna cut in. So because I asked you for a little favor as your brother, you have decided to throw insults at me. Because you're now king on trial, I need to start telling you how I live my life? You have the guts to tell me I didn't discuss how I spent my money after selling them. What insolence! Achena calmed his brother down. But Obinna stormed out of the palace, angrily like a dark thunderstorm, whose deadly bolt could strike at any moment. You can be a king, but I will show you I came to this world before you. The moon was out so early. Its rays revealed the figure of Obinna, his face twisted in anger as he paced, deep in his evil thoughts. Tioma sensed Obinna's wrath, even from a distance. She stood by the fire, worried, while tossing the plantains she was frying back and forth in a huge pan. What's the matter, Nkem? She asked, her voice softened, trying to know who had made her husband angry. It's none of your business, woman, Obinna snapped, his anger evident in both his tone and countenance. Chioma merely laughed sardonically. Obinna's behavior wasn't new to her. She fixed her eyes on the frying plantains instead, avoiding his icy gaze. That's the only thing you could think of. Cooking away everything I've worked hard for, day and night, and feeding those things you called children, Obinna continued. It's not my fault they're girls, Chioma retorted. The gods decide our fate. And why are you suddenly angry at me? What did the king say? Chioma's gaze shifted from the plantains to Obinna, who was about to enter their humble hut, still fuming. King, Obinna scoffed. He's no king. I should be the rightful heir to our father's throne, not Achena. Chioma raised an eyebrow. Did he agree to sell the plot of land? Obinna clenched his fists. Of course not. Can you imagine? My own little brother, whom I once bathed and groomed like a baby, has the audacity to question how I spent the money from selling our land. What rubbish! Chioma sighed. Anger won't solve our problems. What do we do now? My parents accepted your marriage proposal, thinking their daughter would live in the palace, not knowing it's a secret union. You're self-centered, Obinna snapped. You only care about yourself more than others. Do you think I would love to marry you secretly without making the whole villagers aware? I'm waiting for the right time. What's your plan now? Chioma queried. Obinna scanned their surroundings and beckoned Chioma closer. He whispered in her ear, and her eyes widened. Tafia, you must be out of your mind. You want me to disguise as a new wife to your brother just to get rid of him? Keep your voice down, Obinna hissed. Achena's wife is barren. No heir to the throne yet. That's my advantage. After getting rid of him, you'll be my queen you were meant to be. Chioma managed a smile at her husband's plan. Achena was loved by the people of Amero village. Chioma herself had been one of his secret crushes. He has always been every woman's wish to marry him, but Adago had won his heart. But now, Obinna stood beside her, revealing his murderous scheme. Chioma vouched to kill Achena just as they had agreed. The next day, Obinna led the way, Chioma disguised as a maiden fit for Achena. I apologize, my brother, Obinna said. I know what I said yesterday was so terrible after all. You rule over me now, Obinna said, bowing before Achena. Achena nodded. And I apologize for questioning you about father's property. I had disrespected you as my elder brother. Besides, you can have it. It's yours now. Thank you, brotherly. Obinna replied, with a fake smile on his lips. And I have a little something for you, just like I had promised, he said, presenting Chioma before his brother. Chioma stepped forward before the king, moving with so much poise and grace, her smiles evident with lusts. After 7 days, King Achena got married to the beautiful Chioma. Adogo was so happy her husband had finally brought in a new wife thanks to Obinna. Poor Adogo and the king didn't know what fate had installed for them. They had welcomed Chioma into their royal abode with open hands. Adogo treated Chioma like a sister, parading the whole palace with Chioma with a glee on her face. Chioma had invited her parents to come witness her wedding with the king. Their days of fishing was over. She had also discussed the issue with her parents, telling them how Obinna had used her just to get rid of his own brother. I can't believe we agreed to engage our daughter in marriage with a murderer in the first place, Chioma's mother retorted, shaking her head at her daughter. King Achena is a nice man. He doesn't deserve today. Just because he was crowned as a king doesn't make him to despite his brother so much, Mr. Okake, Chioma's father, added. Jealousy is indeed a bad thing. Exactly. I was also wondering when you told us the prince decided to marry secretly, without the awareness of the whole villagers. I thought as much. My daughter will shed no blood of a man, not even a royal blood. Tafia. Mrs. Okake sneered, prolonging the conversation further with her daughter. Chioma's father spotted his friend from afar. He left mother and daughter to themselves, blending in with the evident merriments. Look here, I will make sure you bear the king a male child. We all know the so-called man, the king called his wife, can't produce a child. Talk less of an heir. That's an advantage for us, don't you think? Chioma's mother queried her daughter. Yes, mama. Chioma replied inaudibly. I see how you are getting along with the doggo. Don't give room for such a relationship. Please stay in your lane, Baiko. She's your enemy. And before this year ends, Mein Kam will bore forth a heir. Chioma's mother teased, chanting some Igbo panegyric, emphasizing how beautiful Chioma was. But mama, what if Obinna threatens to kill me? I am scared. He's just a toothless dog. Nothing can happen. Unless he wants to eat his pounded yam salad, Chioma's mother reassured. After 2 months of the grand marriage ceremony held at the palace, Obinna had been visiting the palace more frequently. Adogo saw Chioma and Obinna discussing intensively whenever he pays Achena a visit, but she didn't see anything wrong with her husband's wife having a passionate conversation. Perhaps they were just discussing about business, since it was Obinna himself who had introduced her to them, so nothing is to be worried about. Woman, I'm losing my patience. We agreed on a week. It's taking too long. I'm starting to get impatient, Obinna said, dragging Chioma into one of the corner piece passageways. I already changed my mind. I love the king so dearly. He's too good today. There's no going back. I'm already his queen, and no one can change that, not even you. Have you gone mad? What nonsense are you saying? Obinna cut in with so much rage. I'm tired of the shadow ban. I am sick and tired of dining with a killer prince. It's my time to dine with a king. Don't shatter my dreams into pieces. The mild quarrels between Obinna and Chioma became evident to Adogo, who was in her chamber close to the passageway. Why are those two raising their voices against each other? She soliloquized, as curiosity piqued her. She dashed out of her chamber as fast as her legs could carry her, back to the exact spot she had seen Chioma and Obinna discussing earlier. As Adogo's figure beckoned on them from the adjacent passage, they both comported themselves as if nothing had happened. Chioma and Obinna began to laugh sophisticatedly at each other. Adogo's mind was clouded with confusion, wondering what's happening. They were both disagreeing on something, and now they're both laughing like mad things. Any problem, Senior Queen? Chioma said, as she managed to rally out words making glitches in her overall attitude. I think I will be taking my leave. My dearest Queen Adogo, regards to the king when he comes back. Obinna retorted as he hastily took his leave out of the palace. Chioma excused herself too. Her heart raced as she entered her chamber. Anger occupied her countenance. She held her fist so tightly like a warrior, pacing every corner of the room, soliloquizing with an angry murmur. What if Obinna decides to tell the whole Amero village the truth? I won't be queen any longer, and the whole villagers will stone me to death. My enemies have finally gotten hold of me. Once that happens, no, I need to act fast. Without wasting much time, she forcefully opened the door, walking with great speed. Where are you going, Junior Queen? Adago queried, smiling as she beckoned her, but to her surprise, Chioma only ignored her calls, instead finding her way out of the palace. Papa, where's Mama? Chioma urgently queried her father, who was busy toiling his tangled net, expecting a fast reply from him. I didn't know it's now a taboo for a queen to greet her father. Sorry, Papa. Good evening, Peas, is Mama inside? Mrs. Okek, who was inside, recognized her daughter's voice from outside the hut, causing her to dash outside, embracing her daughter, with the anticipation of her Igbo panegyric way of addressing Chioma. Mama, there is fire on the mountain. Obinna wouldn't stop until he ruined my life. Chioma transpired all that's happening to her at the palace, how Obinna keeps threatening her. Adago almost hear of it. What? Tell me it's a lie? Mrs. Okek replied, shaking her head in disbelief. He needs to be thrown to the dungeon, Chioma's mother replied. About that, he needs to be thrown to something worse than the dungeons. Chioma's father added, he left your children with us, as if they were orphans, not taking a second glance at the twins. We have no choice than to take them in with us. Mr. Oki continued, shaking his head in disgust. I want to show you something in Kem. Chioma's mother cut through the silence. Excuse us, nay. I want to see her, she continued, leading Chioma to her hut. I went to a neighboring village to seek the help of a witch, she explained, revealing 2 bottles, one greenish and the other black, both with a snake symbol as its label, which she had hidden inside her wardrobe for Chioma. Have this, you're to apply the black one inside the king's food, that way you will be in charge, and this greenish one is meant for a doggo, she said, handing the bottles to Chioma. I trust you, Mama. Chioma retorted, beaming a devilish smile at her mother. But Mama, what will the bottle with green content do to a doggo? Just apply it in her food. Don't ask me questions, her mother retorted, escorting Chioma off halfway to the palace, then bidding her goodbye. Immediately she got back to the palace. She dashed to the kitchen, apologizing to Adago for ignoring her earlier, and she's ready to prove herself by cooking for the king while the servants rest from the day's stress. Adago finds it a little bit odd to cook for the king while the maids are being paid. She strongly declines Chioma's urge to cook, telling her she wasn't angry at all. But Chioma's persistence won Adago this time. She was left to cook for the king. Adago stated she doesn't feel like eating. She had already eaten earlier. Maybe she will eat later. Chioma fumed. Her plans weren't fully fulfilled yet. She wouldn't be able to apply the strange snake-labeled bottle her mother had given her on Adago, perhaps next time. It wasn't long after Chioma had prepared dinner. King Akeno was back. He was so famished, he ordered his servants to serve his food. But surprisingly, Chioma brought his food before him, beaming a smile from afar. Achena was wild. Adago had prepared dinner herself just for him. Little did he know something sinister would transform his life into a human puppet in a blink of an eye. King Achena lost his sense of reasoning. He became suddenly spiteful to Adago. Have this, you're to apply the black one inside the king's food. That way you will be in charge. Chioma couldn't believe her luck. What her mother had said keeps replaying in her mind. She was indeed in charge, just like the way her mother had described. Soon Adago noticed the sudden behavior of Achena, his harsh behavior towards her. She also noticed whenever he was in the palace, he would personally wash Chioma's dirty clothes and go on errands like a houseboy. Despite the numerous amount of servants they had, this is not ordinary. The king had been bewitched. This is not ordinary. Adago shook her head in disgust at the king doing the domestic work for the maidens. Achena must be under a spell. This isn't my king anymore. Tears trickled down Adago's cheeks, watching how Chioma keeps ordering Achena around like a slave in his royal abode. What did you do to our husband? Adago confronted Chioma, who happens to be sitting on the king's throne. And why are you sitting down on the throne meant for a king? I am asking you. Chioma. Adago shouted angrily at Chioma, who was paying less attention to what Adago was saying. What sort of foolish question is that, Senior Queen? Chioma exploded into a sudden rage. What do you see me doing? I'm sitting down, of course. Chioma replied, sardonically, chuckling at the standing Adago, whose face etched with confusion. I never knew we now have a female king in a Mero village. Adago replied scornfully without expecting an answer. What charms did you use on my husband? What charms did you see me use? Chioma fired back at Adago, standing up to her feet. Can't a man be free to express his feelings to his queen? Chioma continued. If you know you would be this jealous, why did you request for a new wife? Why not give birth to a hare? Because you know your damaged womb can never bring forth a living human. You're so worthless. Adago's eyes widened at the insults hurled at her, hot tears streaming down her cheeks, as she stood numb, fixing her gaze at Chioma. You have the guts to query me on what to do in this palace, Chioma continued. Well, I don't blame you. You're selfish and greedy. What should I expect from a fruit seller? Adago got stung by Chioma's words. She became furious, and soon their arguments led to a big fight. Adago tried hitting Chioma on the face with her anger boiling from within. Chioma ducked the hit, reciprocating it with a brutal blow on Adago's tummy, causing her to sprawl to the ground. Achena sat closely to the heap of Chioma's dirty clothes, staring at the queens from afar. He paid less attention to their arguments. The servants gathered around Queen Adago, who happens to be lying down without making a slight move. Chioma, on the other hand, was breathing very fast, with only a few scratches on her face. What's going on here? Obina's voice filled the air as he ran towards the scene. The maidservants transpired what had happened. Confusing clouded Obina's mind at the sight of his brother washing Chioma's panties during their quarrels, and he wasn't bothered by the argument. Chioma spotted Obina angrily talking some senses into Achena. Fear gripped Chioma instantly. She knew Obina might expose her, and she has to act fast. Without wasting much of her time, she ordered the guards to lock Obina stripped naked inside the underground cell for coming to the palace uninvited. I'm your prince. Let go of me this instant. Obina's voice filled the air as the palace guards dragged him down the underground prison, filled with life-threatening insects. Inside her chamber, Chioma marveled at the snake-labeled bottles her mother had given her the previous night. Mama knows best, she soliloquized to herself with a devilish smile on her lips. She shifted her gaze to the green bottle that was meant for Adago. Chioma suddenly remembers the fainting Adago the maidservants had rushed earlier during their fights. My work isn't finished yet. I still have to know why Mama instructed me to add this one inside her food. Chioma wondered, raising the green bottle with its contents. Perhaps she's going to bow down to me as the rightful queen of a Mero village, Chioma said, chuckling at her sarcasm. Without wasting much of her time, she sprang to her feet, questioning the maidservants she saw on the passageway, who had come to Adago's rescue during their fights, longing to know if Adago's fine. She's in her chamber, Your Highness, one of the eldest maidservants replied. Only her? Not at all, Your Highness. The village doctor is there with her. Village doctor? Who sent for a village doctor? Chioma queried with her eyebrows furrowing. Queen Adago wasn't herself earlier. We had to invite the village doctor to help, they replied in unison. Chioma fixed her gaze at the maidservants for a while, trying to gather her wits. I see that. You two can go, Chioma commanded, leaving the maids on the spots as she headed down the passageway to Adago's chamber. Your Highness, when last have you menstruated? The question from Adago's chamber made Chioma pierce her ears on the door to eavesdrop. From the looks on your face, you're 3 months pregnant, Your Majesty. Confusion clouded Chioma's mind instantly. Perhaps her eyes were playing games on her. Adago. Pregnant? This is not happening. Chioma soliloquized as she left the doorway of Adago's chamber. Chioma stormed in the midst of the maiden servants who were busy grooming themselves. You come here, Chioma angrily said, pointing her fingers to one of the maiden servants. She instructed the maid to go get both of her parents in the village right away. Chioma kept pacing around the palace, aimlessly as anger and pain etched on her countenance. She spotted one of the youngest maids holding a glass of orange juice. Hioma threw questions at the little maidservant, asking her who owns it. The village doctor requested it for you, Your Highness. Wicked thoughts began to wheel in Chioma's mind. Perhaps the doctor had requested it to give a doggo. This is my chance. Hioma instructed the little maidservant to go inside her chamber for her waist bead. She needed it so badly, collecting the glass cup from the girl.